it got so good, we weren't able to hit every topic, hit every talking point. So we're going to come back this week to finish that conversation. So this is Healing Grace, the Delicate Dance of Forgiveness and Accountability, Part 2.
And it is delicate.
It is very delicate. And so we're just going to start first by just recapping a little bit about what we talked about last week. So we definitely always want to make sure that we deblur the words that we're using, the language that we're using. And so we're talking about grace. We're talking about forgiveness. But grace and forgiveness aren't exactly the same.
No.
So when we're talking about grace, we're talking about a gift that one person gives to another person that says, I know you messed up, but I understand that you're human, and so we're going to act like that never happened.
Right. And it doesn't include a consequence.
There's no consequence for grace.
Consequence.
So you mess up, you own it, you fess up, you like, don't worry about it, baby.
Wipe the slate clean.
You wipe the slate clean. No harm, no foul. You didn't mean it. We're going to move on like it never happened. No consequence. Forgiveness, on the other hand, acknowledges that there's been something that hurt. And as a result of the hurt, there's a potential for this to impact us long term. So there has to be a consequence. There has to be a response that tells you, hey, that's a no-fly zone. This is a no-go zone. We can't do that anymore.
And I was just thinking about this. In forgiveness, there has to be accountability. There has to be accountability. I can't forgive somebody if I don't feel that they are truly taking accountability for what it is that they've done. That's just like, okay, you're going to do it again, but I forgive you. No. Like, if I really believe that you are like, you know what, I was wrong, this is what was wrong and why it was wrong, I apologize. I'm working on, understanding what it is that, made me decide to do that and making sure that it never happens again. Then forgiveness can run its course.
So I hear what you're saying. I do want to push back a little bit because I think accountability is required if we're going to maintain a relationship. So forgiveness, because it's for me, forgiveness is a pathway to healing. So I can forgive you so that I can move on from the hurt and you never take accountability. But I'm not going to continue in a relationship with you. Right. So without that, I can forgive. So forgiveness can come without accountability for me. But forgiveness and continued relationship can't come unless there's accountability for me.
So let me push back a little further.
Okay.
So you telling me that you can forgive somebody and not even really believe that they are taking accountability for their actions? Like, I forgive you. Yeah, I forgive you.
Absolutely. Cue my baby daddy. Absolutely. Because it's for me. It's not necessarily for the other person. Some people have had to forgive people that have passed on. You know what I'm saying? Like, who never took accountability. But because they had to heal and close that wound, they forgave them, which meant they released them from any further punishment, right? I'm not going to punish you, but I'm also not going to continue to be in fellowship with you. Like, I don't have to continue. Forgiveness doesn't require fellowship, but accountability does.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that like, if I hold you accountable that I still have to have fellowship with you. I can still want you to have accountability for what you've done and not fellowship with you.
Yeah, I'm not putting those things together. I'm saying that if fellowship will continue, accountability must occur.
Yes, definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so when we're talking about accountability, we're talking about owning your stuff, right? I messed up. You own that stuff. When you show up as an accountable person, You're saying, I know what I did was wrong and I'm owning it.
And it's also a process. Forgiveness is a process, There are, you're not always going to forgive right out the gate. Sometimes it might be a day later, a week later, a month later, it might be years, but it's also a process because depending on what was happening or what happened, it may have triggered you, and now you got to work through all these emotions to get yourself back to where you need to be in a space to give somebody forgiveness.
So, holding somebody accountable is you saying we're in a partnership, we made these agreements, we said this was going to happen, you're coming up short on your end of the bargain. So I'm going to do my part to ensure that you execute and do what you said you were going to do. So that can mean reminding you of our goals. That can mean pointing out where I feel like you fell short. But if I'm holding you accountable, that's me. I'm not blaming you. I'm not trying to shame you. I'm not trying to diminish you or demean you. But I am doing my part to make sure that you know that I remember what we both said we were going to do.
Yeah.
And so a comment came up last week that said, sometimes people push the envelope because they know that they can. So sometimes people don't hold up their end of the bargain because you know that your partner is going to let you slide. They're going to give you grace when they should be giving you accountability, right? They're going to keep saying, oh, it's okay, oh, it's okay, oh, it's okay. And so in your opinion, if you think about the women that you dated before me, or even me, if it was me at one point in time where you felt like they didn't hold you accountable, where you know that maybe you was doing some stuff you ain't had no business and they kept letting it slide, what do you think was the root cause? What really lied at the root of that behavior?
I think it's more so just, knowing that, nothing's going to happen. It ain't no accountability, or if it is, it's minimal. And whatever the response is, it's minimal. Knowing that, after a couple of days, they'll be back to normal, I'll be all right, and we're going to continue things as normal. So, that's really kind of handicapping your partner when you turn the blind eye to certain things and you're not holding them accountable because one, you're hurting yourself, and then two, you are telling that person like, hey, it's okay, whatever you do, I'm gonna be mad for a couple of days, but I'll get over it. So I think it was more so like I just knew like nothing was really gonna happen. We're gonna argue for a couple minutes and then get the silent treatment. I'll leave, come back, then we'll have to talk, and then everything will be sure.
So what do you think it was that made her keep wiping the slate clean? Like what was going on inside of her?
Abandonment issues could be one thing, resentment, or putting yourself in that situation, like I shouldn't
I've been here this long.
Pride, like dang, they told me to leave you alone.
Woo! Now you stepping on my toes. Hold on now.
So, it's a multitude of things. I think that's a lot of times we, really are prideful and don't want nobody to come to us like I told you so. Even if they don't say it, in our mind, like that's all they thinking the whole time they in our face. I told you so. I told you she wasn't no good. I told you he was going to do this. I told you she was a liar, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? That's really
living your relationship with other people.
Yep.
Yeah, I was there. I mean, like I said, you stepping on my toes. I remember We ain't even gonna talk about it. I agree, amen. We're gonna keep it moving. So I actually left my notes out there. I thought those were my notes. Those were my notes for last week. So y'all, thank you for tapping the screen. Make sure you share it live. Tag your friends. Tell us where you're watching from. So if you're watching a replay, make sure you put a hashtag life in the gray in the comments to join the conversation. And so here are a few things that come up when we think about this idea of a partner who is just unable or unwilling to enforce their own boundaries or to protect themselves or to just make sure that their partners are holding up their end of the bargain. So here's a few things that could be going on. One of them is codependency. And so codependent relationships are those relationships, and you can have a codependent relationship in any kind of relationship. It could be a marriage, it could be a friendship, it could be a parent-child relationship. But you have one person who needs something, and then you have another person who needs to be needed.
So, while we're talking about this, something that you just said, like, so when does holding somebody accountable turn into codependency? And what I mean by that is, you said, like, I'm gonna keep reminding you to let you know that I ain't forgotten, I'm holding you accountable. But when does that turn into codependency? Like, they know, oh, she gonna remind me, so I ain't gonna even think about it. Or he gonna let me know what I gotta do, so I ain't gonna worry about it.
So that's not codependency. We're about to talk about codependency. But I know what you're saying, because you brought it up last week. At what point does it become, at what point is enough? Like, at what point does your reminding go into, like, I need you here. So I need you to, but that's not
because I'm depending on you to remind me of these things. I'm depending on you to.
But a codependent person is not even going to remind you. That's why I'm saying it's not codependency.
A codependent
partner is not going to hold you accountable at all.
No. I'm saying, but even, I'm not talking about the part, I'm saying, but when can that turn into codependency when you depending on that person to remind you, like, I'm codependent, not you.
You saying you're not holding yourself accountable because you know somebody else is going to remind you. But that partner is not going to even seek accountability. That's my point. So when we're talking about codependency, we're talking about a person who basically gets to do whatever they want to do. And the other person lets them because I need you to feel important. And so that person is called the enabler. And so if I have a person, if you've ever, and I don't like doing examples because I don't want nobody to ever feel like I'm talking about their specific situation. And I don't know if we're that blurry for real, if we need to clean the camera. You think this is how we really look? It's the internet. Okay. Y'all tell me if we're blurry to you on Facebook. TikTok, I know we're not blurry for you, but Facebook, if we're blurry, tell us. So if you ever seen a man who is with a woman who on aid, who is Section 8 housing, who get food stamps, and they don't have to work, they get a place to live, they don't work, they don't contribute, right? Yeah. And then you have this woman who does not expect them to, does not require them to work, does not require them to contribute, they don't help with the kid. You know what I'm saying? So this man needs a place to live, he needs a woman to lay down with, he needs food, and this woman needs to be needed. And so they develop this codependent relationship where I'm not going to make you mad because you might leave. Right. And I need a piece of a man. It's better than no man at all. So I'd rather have a piece of a man than no man. Right. And so then you can have this codependent relationship where, and then some of the, let me peek at that. So here's some of the way that shows up. So a codependent person will find little to no happiness outside of doing things for other people. So a codependent person really struggles in self-care. They really struggle pouring into themselves. The joy and the happiness and the fulfillment they get comes from giving to other people. Now, we love a cheerful giver. We love everybody, we love people who have a heart to serve. But there is it becomes codependent where that's the only time you're happy. That's the only time you really feel like you have value or you have worth, is if you're serving somebody else.
Right. And another one is when you feel like you're being selfish, when you start thinking about yourself or doing for yourself, like, should I do this? I shouldn't do that because I know such and such need X, Y, and Z, so I'm gonna just hold on. Like, you may be codependent. There's nothing wrong with making sure that self is okay and making sure you're fine.
Right.
Because how can you be there to help someone else if you're not yourself 100%, or all there mentally, physically, whatever the case may be. Like, you can't do anything for anyone if you're not there. So if you feel selfish anytime you start thinking about doing for yourself or putting yourself first, you might want to think about it.
Even to your detriment, right?
Yeah.
You tired, you burnt out, and you still can't put yourself first.
Yeah.
That's a flag for codependency. Also, if you stay in relationships where this person is hurting you, so we all for reconciliation, we all for making it work, we all for. But if you are in a pattern where your partner is consistently causing you hurt emotionally, financially, physically, whatever, hurt and harm, and you cannot find a reason why you should leave, like you still are telling yourself that you have to stay with this person, that could be a sign of codependency, because there's something about just having the relationship that is fulfilling for you, even if it's hurtful and harmful. You might not want to be alone. Again, this idea of having and I'm not going to say a piece of a man, right? I'm going to say a piece of a partner, because, man, woman, or otherwise, you feel like you need this person, even when they're hurting you.
And a way to gauge that, like, words have no sound, but actions speak volume. So if they're not showing you with their actions, then that's one way to really have to stop yourself and really reflect. Like, dang, they saying all this, but their actions ain't lining up with what they saying. That might be something you should look at, because you could tell me that, oh, I appreciate you all day, but if you're not showing me you appreciate me, then what is we doing?
Yeah. So anytime you consistently are prioritizing your partner, whether that's at the expense of your health, they're hurting you, but you continue to stay. If you are consumed with anxiety because you're always wondering if you're enough for the person, if the person's gonna leave. These are all signs of codependency. So, and again, we're talking about the difficulty or the inability for one partner to maintain healthy boundaries in a relationship, or to make sure that their partner is being accountable for their part of the relationship.
So, just thinking about the conversation we're having now, when I'm thinking about it, I feel like anytime your decisions are fear-based,
that's good. That's really good.
Something needs to be talked about. Anytime you move out of fear or anxiety, or feeling like you're being, I don't want to say bullied, but pressured into a decision. Anytime you're making a decision out of pressure and things like that, then it's a conversation that needs to be had, because any relationship, everything should just feel natural. It should flow.
I don't know about that.
I'm talking about as far as no, I'm saying what I'm saying as far as let me think about it. If you don't even feel like you have a chance to say, let me think about it, and you gotta do it because you fear they might be mad, or they might start crying, or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem.
Emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So emotional manipulation is another sign of codependency. Yeah. So if one partner is emotionally manipulating And that could be, you said crying, that could be crying.
Yeah.
You know, anytime your partner objects to something or pushes back or challenges, and you're unable to have a conversation, like a mature conversation, and the tears are flowing, that could be emotional manipulation. And if you yield to that, right, because then that makes you feel bad or that makes you feel good, that you have the ability to console your partner and then make them feel better. All of that goes into that codependent relationship.
Guilt tripping is up there.
Guilt tripping, all of that. And so another root cause to why someone might struggle with those boundaries in their relationship is low self-worth and low self-esteem. And so this kind of goes together because a lot of codependent partners have low self-esteem. They're not going to make waves in the relationship. And a codependent partner is not going to challenge their partner because they need them. And so when you have low self-worth, you're not going to make waves. You're not going to assert your needs because you're afraid, right? That fear, that a fear of rejection or a fear of being alone, abandonment. And so because you have all of these fears and you're making your decision rooted in fear, you're constantly putting yourself and your needs at the bottom.
Yeah. That's why it's really important to make sure you're examining self, because a lot of us don't even realize like some of the stuff we carry. You know what I'm saying? And when we get into relationships and we're letting somebody into our life and we're going into somebody's life, things start coming out that we didn't even know was there. So now it's manifesting in this life that we're trying to build together. And it don't always manifest in healthy ways.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important that you like self-care is very important in all of this, making sure that you take mental breaks and, you know, make sure that you have healthy outlets, especially if, you know, you've heard somebody mention low self-esteem as it pertains to you, or you felt like that, or you're not the most confident person. Like, you know, you might need to, you know, get some like professional help and try to find the root causes of these issues.
You jump ahead. You always jump ahead.
I'm saying, like, it's all time.
Hey, Tam. So, Tam, last week Tam said, "Ooh, talk about that male ego feel." So you mentioned the male ego as being a barrier to accountability. I think the question was around like, you know, how do you hold somebody accountable without them becoming defensive? And we were talking about like, you know, why people become defensive. And so this idea of like the male ego came up. And so what were you getting at when you were talking about the ego and like in men and accountability and all of that?
So I'm just speaking for me.
Yeah.
I feel like, excuse me, sometimes when people bring stuff to men, especially their partners or their spouses, it seems like they're being challenged, you know, or being, you know, I'm gonna stick with challenge. And, you know, anytime you're dealing with a man and he's being challenged, you know, naturally you're gonna get aggressive. You know, you're gonna get defensive. So now I'm in my defense mode. So now, you know what I'm saying, I'm looking at you, you looking at me like, what we gonna do? So I think it's two things. One, for us as men, like we have to really understand when it comes to our spouse that they're not challenging us, they're just one, asking questions, and two, you know, trying to make sure that we on top of our game, you know what I'm saying, to benefit both of us, to help both of us, because we're a team. So when you ask me something, I got to keep in mind, or when you bring something to me, I need to keep in mind, like, okay, she's not challenging me. She's not, what'd you say?
I was just trying to make sure the people heard it. Okay.
I I make sure I keep in mind that you're not challenging me. One, we're a team. Two, and really stop and hear what it is that you're saying, because again, the pride in us and just that male innate just aggressiveness comes out when we feel like we're being challenged. So that's where the defensiveness comes from, in my opinion, because we're not really listening to what you're saying. We're just going off the way it feels.
Yeah.
So when we feel that way, now we gotta buck up and you know what I'm saying? Like, well, what's up? What you say? Who you talking to?
Oh, he don't talk to me like that. That's an example.
Yeah.
I also what you say? What about this relationship between male affirmation and male accountability?
So affirmations are very important, because if you don't hear somebody tell you they're proud of you, then I feel like you're less likely to do things that someone will be proud of.
Oh, wow.
Like,
oh, yeah.
If ain't nobody ever told you look good, you less likely to feel like you look good.
So you ain't gonna even try.
Yeah, so you have to, affirm, say those things, and model those things.
Yeah.
For your spouse and your partner to really, drive that into and instill those things that you really feel or think about them. So it's no second guessing. And then it comes in with accountability. Like, when I believe that you really believe that I'm this person that you affirm me to be, then when you hold me accountable, like, dang, I know she look at me like this, so I gotta, what I'm saying?
That's good.
So now I gotta get back on my game to make sure that I don't paint a picture of myself that you don't see.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's important that the affirmation piece be there for the accountability on that end for your spouse or your partner.
So almost like my psych brain is turning on and I'm hearing like self-fulfilling prophecy. So if I'm always like, you ain't nothing and you ain't this and you ain't that and you don't never do nothing right and you don't never do what you say you're gonna do and you always letting me down and then it's like that's what you are expected to do.
That's what I'm gonna manifest.
That's what you're gonna produce. And then that confirms
everything
that I said. But when I start to speak that life into you, I speak that king. I speak to that king in you. You know what I'm saying? Then that gives you something to hold yourself accountable to. Like, this is how I see. And we talked about this. And so we're talking about why it's so hard to maintain healthy boundaries in your relationship and why it can be difficult for people to hold each other accountable in relationship. So things are happening and you continue to excuse it and it creates a cycle. And so we talked about codependency being an issue. We talked about low self-esteem, low self-value being an issue. But then also emotional modeling is also an issue for men and women. Mm-hmm. And so we duplicate the behaviors that we that we see. Yeah. And so as a woman, if I did not grow up seeing women in my family hold their husbands accountable in a healthy way, I might not do that. Now, this ain't me. This is an example. Like, if I come from a family that believes that women are to be seen and not heard, that women don't have a voice, that their husbands are always right regardless of what they're doing, that you never challenge the man, right? And this is what I've seen, not in my own family, but just growing up, and even as an adult, I see households that wholeheartedly believe the man is always right.
No matter what.
No matter what. And you bet not fix your mouth to challenge that man's actions. Mm-hmm. If he paying the bills and you got a house and you got food and you got clothes, you don't got no problem.
Sit back and be quiet.
And so if you raise children in that environment, then that woman grows up feeling like she's not allowed or has the space, or that it's improper to say, I'm unhappy. I don't like when you do this. This is what I need from you. And that emotional modeling goes for men as well.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, if you are a boy growing up around men who got multiple women, then as a child, you looking at that like, oh, that's normal. You know what I'm saying? That's okay. So as I'm getting older, now it's time for me to start dating. Hey, I got girl over here, girl over here. It don't matter, because what was modeled for me is that it's okay to have multiple women. You know, so what we have to realize is, even with our children, like for me, you know, we make sure that we're paying attention to what we're saying to each other. Paying attention to what we're doing around each other when we are with the kids, and how we interact with each other. Making sure we tell the kids that we love them. You know, making sure that we, great job. You know, no matter what it is, you know how kids are. Look what I can do, and they just jump up in the air.
I'm struggling.
Like, great job.
I'm struggling. Keep praying for me, because I'll be like, child, you don't stop.
What I can do, and just turn around like they did that flip. Wonderful. That is awesome.
Go sit down.
So, you know, that it's important, you know, to model the behaviors that you want to see. You know, that's really important. And that was something that I had to learn as a parent, because you know, I came into the parent game and real green. You know, you had the experience, but again, because it was certain things that I had never seen modeled, I didn't have to give to my children. So there was a work that I had to do to get those tools to be able to make sure that my kids feel seen, and make sure I'm modeling the behaviors that I want to see out of them.
We're gonna talk about kids next week. We're gonna keep talking about me. So, and this is actually, so I was thinking about what you were saying about the affirmation and the accountability and how they go together. And I know that there's very distinct like phases of our marriage, and I feel like in the beginning I didn't affirm you often in holding you accountable. Like while I was trying to hold you accountable, I feel like it was a lot of shaming and blaming, and now I'm learning how to speak life. I'm learning how to focus on what I want to see. Right. And not what I don't want to see, right? It's just like being a teacher. All the years of being a teacher, they always teach you when you have behavior issues in your classroom, you never pay attention to the negative behavior. You pay attention to the positive behavior, right? You call out the positive behavior. If you see somebody standing up out their seat, you say, "Thank you, Susie, for standing in your seat and put your feet on the floor. Thank you," you know what I'm saying? And then that is a trigger for the person that's standing up, like, "Oh, I want to be affirmed too. Let me sit down so I can be affirmed," instead of shaming that child in front of the classroom. Sit down, right? And so I'm learning what that looks like in our relationship, and I've seen a shift as a result. And so I'm asking you as a man, is it easier to hold yourself accountable and to be held accountable by your partner when you feel safe and secure in your relationship, when you feel loved, when you feel like I ain't gonna leave you next week, you know what I'm saying? When you feel like you are this, you know, the head and the lead and all of these other things, like, is it easier to then hold yourself accountable when you feel safe and secure?
Yes. It's easier because, again, like I said earlier, when you feel like you're not being attacked, you can hear more clearly, you can receive stuff easier. But when I feel like it's always a highlight on what I'm not doing, you know what I'm saying? Even though I may not be doing it at the same time, still, like, when I feel like that's the only time you bring something to me, then now, you know, when you try to hold me accountable for something else, then I'm gonna just look at you like, oh, here she go again. So, well, okay, I hear you. And I'm not even really actively listening to you or paying attention to what it is you're trying to say. So, when the security piece is there, it's in my mind now like, okay, she's not trying to, hurt me or make me feel bad. She really just trying to make sure that I remember to do X, Y, and Z, or that I do that I was going to do what I said I was going to do, or more importantly, be a man of my word.
Yeah.
So again, when the security and safety is there for a man, I think he's always going to show up because there's no reason to question whatever it is you're bringing to him, because I'm secure and I'm safe in knowing that you're not trying to do me wrong. You're not trying to, emotionally manipulate me or make me feel away. You're not trying to gaslight me. You just trying to really, build me up and make me see that, I'm kind of, falling off a little bit on what I said I was going to do, or my responsibilities, or whatever the case may be, whatever it is you're trying to bring to me. You're just trying to keep me on point.
You trust her.
Yeah, you trust her. I think you can trust a person still, but still feel like, oh, here she go again.
But you trust her in the sense of like, what you're saying to me is for my good.
Yeah, and it's not, just because you feel away and you want to, pick a fight today.
Yeah.
The case may be.
The intentions are pure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Tam says, do you think the company you keep influences the accountability of the man?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So going back to what you said, if you got two men that hang together, one of those men grew up watching both his parents hold each other accountable and making sure that they do it in an easy way, or non-aggressive or harsh way, versus the other man who grew up in, whatever dad said go. Whatever the man say go, that's what go. So now, they hanging out.
Man, you let your wife talk to you like that?
Like, oh man, I gotta go, bro. I'm about to go kick it with the wife. I don't want to be out too late. She, don't like it when I'm out this late. Man, what? What you mean she don't like it when you out this late, man? You pay the bills, bro. You know what I'm saying? And that creates, tension. Now he thinking like, dang, I do pay my bills. I do, work 12, 13 hours a day. You know what? Dang, what? You right, man.
Yeah.
Give me another drink.
Then you come home with your stuff on the porch. Because you listen to your friend.
I mean,
But that's how it starts.
Yeah.
That's how, absolutely. Same go with the woman.
Yeah.
Same go with the woman.
Girl, I don't understand. Why you be letting him tell you what to do? You are your own woman. Ain't nobody got no power over you. Ain't nobody tell you a grown woman.
So when we're talking about improving accountability first of all, for yourself, right? And so you have to always self-assess. You said that earlier, to really look inside yourself and see what those roots are. If you keep messing up, if you keep going back on your word, if you keep cheating, if you keep disappointing your partner, you gotta get to the roots. Yeah. And you have to do the work. And so first you said this that was really powerful. Tam called it out. Do you want to change? Mm-hmm. You have to be super honest with yourself. Do I really want to change? Because I feel like society tells us how we should feel about certain things. And we try to be this good person. And so sometimes society says being a good person means I get a wife, I raise kids, I go to work every day. That might not be the life you want. Right. And so you have to search inside yourself and say, Am I happy with the kind of person I am? Am I happy doing the things? Do I want multiple women? Just be honest with yourself. And once you decide that I want to get better, now you have to close 2 gaps. Once you make a decision that I want to be better, I want to change, I want to be this partner for my spouse, I want to do what I said I was going to do. Mm-hmm. Now you got 2 gaps you got to close. You got to close the knowledge gap.
Right.
The knowledge gap is, what am I doing that she doesn't want me to do? Or what am I not doing that she wants me to do? Or he, exchanging. I'm just speaking from my perspective. That's the knowledge gap, right? You have to understand what changes need to be made, what shifts need to happen that will get you from where you are to where you want to be. Mm-hmm. Knowledge, because if I don't know that you got a problem with me hanging out, if I don't know that you got a problem that I don't wash the dishes when you cook, right, and I don't know this, I can't change, mm-hmm, right? So you're holding me to an unfair expectation because you haven't even communicated that to me. Mm-hmm. So you have to close the knowledge gap. Then you have to close the skill gap. Mm-hmm. What does it take to make that change? Am I able, in my own strength, to do it? Do I need to see a counselor? Do I need to consult some wise counsel? Do I need to ask somebody who's been in this situation before and ask him to walk me through it? Right. But if you aren't able to take the steps that are necessary to make the change, again, it's unfair. And so, but once you close that knowledge gap, and once you close that skill gap, everything else is choice. Everything else is choice. Yeah. You are choosing to change or not change because you have acknowledged that you want to with your words, right? You know what you got to do and you know how to do it. Mm-hmm. Everything after that is a choice.
Yep. Everything after that is definitely a choice. So now, when we come back to accountability, there is nothing that you can say to, deny that whatever you did, you did.
Like, you did it, yeah.
So now I'm holding you accountable. Now there are consequences coming.
Yeah.
So another thing that was talked about too, what happens when, the same stuff keep happening? I don't know exactly what it was.
Yeah, she said, what if they are still doing it, but just not as frequently?
Yeah. You gotta assess, am I willing to continue to forgive, and continue to hold them accountable until, it just dwindles out on its own? Or am I just going, the consequence is next time it happens, I'm done. Mm.
Ooh.
So.
Been there. So this is another thing, though. I'm glad you said that when you said assess. And so this is another thing I tell dating women who are dating, who are looking to get married. You do not marry potential. Mm-hmm. And I actually seen this on. I think I seen it. I don't know where I saw it, but I'm not claiming it. I definitely didn't come up with it. But it said potential doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. The only thing that exists is what you would do if you were that person in that situation. Potential is projection. So if I look at you and I'm like, oh, he got potential. Mm-hmm. What I'm doing is projecting onto you what I would do if I were you. Mm-hmm. But I'm not you. Yeah. At the end of the day, you still have to make the choice. Mm-hmm. And so when you're dating, you don't ever date potential. Because that person may or may not ever become that thing that you project onto them.
And if they don't, it's going to be a problem.
And if they don't, it's going to be a problem. So when you're dating, if you're not completely satisfied with that person, just as they are, and if nothing ever changed, ever, you would still be okay. If you can't say that, then I would not marry that person. I wouldn't marry that person. Now, I feel like you might want to give them time to see what happens, But if you cannot say on the day you say I do, that if you never change, I would be perfectly fine with you. If you can't say that, I would wait. I would wait. And so after you self-assess and you understand, I've addressed my knowledge gaps, I've addressed my skill gaps, now you need to examine your top 5. So we talked about last week, we talked about that you are the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is research-based, it's evidence-based, this is the truth. Birds of a feather flock together. Either you're changing or they're changing, somebody's changing. And so when you're thinking about accountability, you have to assess who your top 5 are. Who are the 5 people that you're spending the most time with? And ask yourself, are these people a reflection of something I want to become? Mm. If you are hanging around, and I'm not saying we can't have friends from childhood and you know, people and cousins that we didn't grew up with, and you know, that's okay. We're talking about intentional time spent cultivating relationship. Who are those 5 people that you're doing that with? And are they a reflection of what you want to become? If they aren't, if you look at somebody and be like, ooh, she is a terrible wife, or a terrible mother, or she lazy, or she can't cook. Well, I'm gonna help her on that one. But you want to, maybe she got something else that's gonna help me. And it doesn't have to be every single thing about this person, right? But there needs to be something in that person that you're saying, I want to be more like that. Yeah. If you can't find that for your top 5, if there's not something that you like, I want to be more like that, you need to examine who's in your top 5, because these are the people that will help you reach the goal that you said that you want to reach. Yeah, iron sharpens iron. Absolutely. If they're not adding to your life and your relationships and the dreams and goals that you have, then what are they around for? If they're not helping you be a better man or woman for yourself and then the person that you're with, what are they there for? Because if they're not doing that, then they having another effect on you that's going to drive you further away from the place that you're trying to be. That is very important to make sure that the 5 closest people that you have in your circle are always speaking life into all of your situations, not just the ones that that y'all talk about. Anything that should be their hope and their prayer for anything that you're involved in, that you are always progressing and always moving forward and thriving to be the best in it and at it. Oh, you just made me think about a topic, but we don't got time to talk about it because it's a lot of snakes in the garden. And baby, I don't know why it's a codependency, why we keep these snakes around us that always got something slick to say or always throwing shade and laughing like it's a joke. Baby, every joke got a seed of truth. And they high and then they praying on your downfall. But that is another topic and I'm not going to go there. So, now we know what we need to do, right? The 3 steps we need to do to improve our own accountability. Now, here's 3 steps for you to support your partner who's trying to improve in their accountability. And so, if you want to be a better partner, right, to your spouse, we talked about like, how do I come to him and he doesn't get defensive. And so, the first thing you want to do is just employ empathy. Mm-hmm. And so, this is when you really put yourself in that person's shoes and try to look at it from their perspective. And this is something that our marriage counselor used to always push me on, because I am such a person who feels like my perspective is right. Like the way that I see it is the only way that is just. And I struggle with that. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, he'll have this totally different perspective and I'll be like, that is crazy. Like, that is not, how do you think that? How do you feel like that's okay? And she used to always push me to see things from his perspective. And I still be like, that's crazy. But I walk away able to say, I get it. Even if I don't understand it, even if I wouldn't choose it, I get it. And then I can validate your feelings, which is important. Again, that goes with that affirmation. I can validate you. Perception is reality. And all of us have different points of perception, but my perception is very real to me. Just like your perception is very real to you. And when we fail to employ empathy, we're telling that person that their perception is invalid and unimportant and irrelevant. And so how my that look you just gave me. And so how would that feel to have somebody tell you like that your point of view is irrelevant? Like
yeah. It don't feel good. So, and for me, even like when you would say, things when we have a disagreement, and like with my point of view and your point of view, and like I know in those moments, like she don't care nothing about my point of view, right? And that I'm fine with that. Like I'm cool with that. But the part that was missing was, even though I don't care about your point, I understand what you're saying. The validation part is very important, because I may just not have the lived experience to even understand where you're coming from, because lived experience is important too.
Yeah,
I haven't lived what you lived, and you haven't lived what I lived, so I can't even envision that. That's fine, but me not validating your lived experience is what it comes down to, is unacceptable. Like, you cannot tell somebody what they think, what they've been through, and what they feel is not important. That's just not it's not cool.
Oh.
It's not cool.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So you want to employ empathy. You also want to clarify your expectations. So it's huge. I also have been guilty of this. There's something about us women that want to feel like we shouldn't have to tell our partners what we need. And I've recently seen this on social media, like real love, you don't have to tell, or you don't have to ask, or you won't ever have to. Y'all, these folks will set you up for failure, telling you in these relationships that you don't have to own your own feelings and express your own needs. No, ma'am. They gonna set you up for failure. Now, I'm not saying that there can't be situations where the man just gets it, right? Some men, because of what they have been modeled, are super, because of their lived experience, they're super intuitive, and they're super tapped into feminine energy, and they just understand how to get there, right? But everybody has not done that, has not experienced that. And so it's unfair to enter a relationship expecting that person to read your mind. If you want a man who's super intuitive, then you need to marry a man who's super intuitive. But you know that before you get married. And so to marry a man who has never demonstrated ability to read your mind and then expect him to read your mind is unfair. And so this was a challenge for my marriage counselor and even my individual therapist. If I need something, I need to ask. I need to clearly communicate my expectations to my partner after I've done my own self-work, right? Because a lot of our expectations can be clouded by our past trauma. His job is not to fix me. His job is not to heal me. My job is to heal myself. And once I'm healed, then I can tell him what I need from him that's actually fair and reasonable and feasible. Because a lot of times when we're broken, we're asking our partners for things that's just not fair to ask them for. It's stuff that we should be giving to ourselves.
Yeah, that just goes back to, it's not your partner's responsibility to make you happy. You have to come with your cup full already, and everything after that your partner brings is just overflow.
It's overflow.
Because
come with your cup full. Listen.
is when you come half filled and I start pouring into you to fill your cup up, then now my cup is being emptied out. And then when I leave some for myself and your cup starts to get past a certain point and you're not full no more, now I got to come back. It's just a vicious cycle. So,
yeah.
A lot of people, I think, nowadays just reading the statuses and all the posts and things like aren't getting into relationships happy with themselves. So now you in a relationship and you are happy, but maybe half of that happiness is because of what your partner is doing. So what if they get to a point where they can't do the stuff that they've been doing to make you happy? Then what? Are you just gonna leave because they can't fill you up? You know what I'm saying?
That's what happens. That's what happens.
It's very important to really, before you get into a serious committed relationship, make sure that you are happy with yourself. Can you sit alone with yourself, for a significant amount of time and just, sit with your thoughts, and feel whatever it is you're feeling. Like, does that bother you? Are you uncomfortable when that happens? Like, that's something that you should really, consider before really getting into a relationship.
Yeah.
A serious relationship. That's going to marriage. Yeah. That's just something that needs to be done. Like, your happiness is important.
Yeah. And I was so confused when my therapist told me that I needed to learn how to meet my own needs. Because I was like, girl, what? What is he here for?
But me personally, I feel like a lot of women feel like that, though. Like, he is responsible for meeting all my needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I was like, what? Run my own back? What do you mean? It was the littlest things. And I was like, girl.
And I'm not saying by no means that, he shouldn't be doing certain stuff to, what I'm saying, put a smile on your face.
But like you said, that's the overflow.
That's the overflow.
Yeah.
Again, before you met him, what was you doing?
Listen, that's called serial monogamy. People who go from one relationship to another, to the other, to the other, to the other. That's what they were doing. They were with another partner, wanting that partner to do the same thing. When you see people who are never single, or who are always in a relationship,
that's wild, B.
It's because they have not learned how to fill their own cup.
Yeah. That's just like men who feel like women are responsible for all the domestic duties. Like, my boy, you ain't cook and clean before you met her?
Nope.
Like, you ain't know how to wash your dishes? Like, you ain't know how to wash your clothes? You ain't know how to vacuum? Like, my boy,
or they were taught that you do it as long as until you get a woman.
And that's what, when they get to talking about their lived experience, I didn't understand.
Yeah, because that's what their mama did.
Either that or, they grew up around a lot of men who, that's what they model for them. Like, oh, no, I don't do that, dog. Yeah. She do all that.
Well, I grew up with a daddy that do his own laundry and loves to cook and is a super neat freak. So
I still do my own laundry because I like myself done a certain way.
Yes, he does.
Which is fine. I've always did my own laundry. I just don't especially if you are particular about a certain thing, do it yourself.
You better preach today.
Do it yourself, because
listen,
I'm not this. I got enough to remember.
So we're almost done. So you also want to learn how to respond and not react to your partner. This is super important, especially if they are trying to improve in an area and they may default, they may mess up, but learn how to respond in that moment and not react. So don't treat them as if they're still that person from the past, right? Because they're growing and they're striving, and so they're not the same person because that other person wasn't even trying. And so you have to remember that it's always you and your partner versus the problem, and not you versus your partner. And sometimes, especially when we feel like we've been hurt or mistreated or anything like that, like it's easy for us to try to want to attack the person. But you have to
that feeling, man. Like,
yeah.
You don't want to feel like you being attacked. Like, don't nobody want to feel like somebody is just doing something to them and they are like blameless. That's another part of it, like feeling like you blameless. Like, I didn't do anything.
It's you and your partner versus the problem always. And so even when you feel yourself, when you feel like your partner is defaulting or you feel like your partner is slipping back into these old habits, making sure that you make that person aware of the impact of the behavior, right? And so treat it like you're on the same team. So a default doesn't mean that he's no longer on your team. Y'all are still on the same team. And so now let's address this issue in the moment together and talk about what we need to do to make sure that this doesn't continue. But it's not a you versus me thing. It's not you did this to me. Mm-hmm. It's when you do this, this is the impact on our relationship, on our family. This is how it makes me feel in this relationship.
And that's important too, that when you are holding someone accountable, that you use that as well, like the not making sure that it's not you did this to me, but you know, because that, like, I'm always doing something to you. You know what I'm saying?
He always does.
I'm not saying her, I'm just saying in general. But anyways, and then another way to, you know, is get support.
Get some support. If you can't do it on your own, baby, get some help.
Help me.
Get some help. No, but seriously, we are huge advocates of therapy, couples and individual therapy, and we
therapy.
We, you know, Jesus and therapy. I know I wear that. That's my sweatshirt, my favorite sweatshirt. So we're having trouble hearing each other, and so we really needed an objective person to come in and mediate and say, well, this is what I hear him saying.
Although I didn't feel like our therapist was objective this time. Our marriage counselor, because it was like they was ganging up on me. They was jumping me. But
anyways, she would be able to help me see his perspective, which she challenged me all the time. I just didn't get defensive when she challenged me. And so I don't understand why, especially for folks who are Christian, we stub our pinky so we'll run to the doctor. But if it's mental health, emotional health issues, then we just should pray about it. If we believe that all we had to do was pray, then what you taking the pills for? What you going to your doctor visits? Just pray. Just pray that blood pressure away. Just pray that. No, but the fact of the matter is God has gifted these professionals with the knowledge, with the insight, with the intuition, with the skills, with whatever, to help us with our issues, whether they be physical, whether they be mental, whether they be emotional. And so if we believe in clinics, then why y'all don't believe in couches? I mean, I'm just trying to understand it, make it make sense for me. Like, either God is the healer of all, or he is, and he has experts for us to consult along the way. And so I feel like if you need the support, if you need the help, pray and go see the doctor.
Yeah, that's it. It's funny because you see so many people in the gym trying to get their body right. I gotta get my summer body because I'm giving
summer bodies are made in the winter.
You know, I'm giving my this summer. Summer gonna get this body this year. You know what I'm saying? Just as much as your physical body needs to be worked out, your mental and emotional body needs to be worked out too. Like that's on the same level. Like you go to the gym to get this right, you need to talk to somebody to get this right and this right. You know, you talk to God and then go talk to your therapist. You feel me? Like go get help. Yeah. It is okay.
And I'm so glad you said that. We gotta go, but I also just want to highlight that we tried the church for counseling.
Yeah.
It didn't work for us, right? There was some gaps in the support. And so we were in a position where we felt like everything that we needed should have been in the house, right? That's what we're taught. We're taught that if you are a Christian and you're a believer, then you should be able to go to your pastor, or you should be able to go. It didn't work for us. Mm-hmm. And
from marriage counseling, you know,
premarital counseling, marriage counseling, crisis counseling, there were gaps, and it's because there are certain skills that you learn when you go to school to be a counselor. Yeah. And so I know that he is a wonderful counselor, but maybe everybody.
Your representative may not be.
Listen. And so you have the right, and this is something that I wish we would have applied a lot sooner, that we have the right to say, this isn't working. Mm-hmm. And I hear you, and I respect you, and I appreciate the counsel, but it isn't enough. And I feel like sometimes we get stuck in feeling like this is our only option. And it comes just from it comes from the culture, especially being Black people. It has a stigma to it, needing help in general. It's okay to need help in church, right? Because that's what we go to church for. But if you need help outside of church, there's a stigma on it. And so another reason why we're just having these conversations is to challenge and confront a lot of those unhealthy, toxic beliefs that keep us in situations much longer. Had we had some real healthy male accountability in the church, we wouldn't have spent 10 years going through the things that we went through. We just would not have. Mm-hmm. But it was lacking, and it lacks a lot. And it's okay to say it, right? It's okay to acknowledge that there could be gaps in these institutions that we have a lot of faith in. And so,
because the majority of the time, if I'm not mistaken, and they did a study on it, like it's more women in church anyway.
Absolutely.
Than men. That's absolutely one part of the problem right there. And then, you know, when you look at other things, you know, like it's very important that in these institutions, that when you do go to them and you understand, like, okay, this is something beyond their capability. So, you know, like you said, I appreciate you, but, you know, I got to look at other, you know what I'm saying, resources or things that may benefit me to help me with where I am right now. I'm going to keep praying for sure. But while I'm not praying, you know, I'm going over here and holler at this, you know what I'm saying, PhD.
This licensed professional. Yeah. Went to school. Yeah. Just like teachers and doctors and all the other people we put our faith in.
Board certified.
Yeah. But anyway, we don't want to go and get off in a tangent. Make sure that if you haven't got our attachment style guide, that you go to the website www.grayareathepodcast.com/hearts_unlined. That is a free attachment style guide. It helps you to understand attachment theory. A lot of what we're talking about as relates to how we view accountability is connected to attachment. How we communicate with our spouses can be rooted back to our attachment style. So this guide will help you understand attachment theory. It'll help you, if there's a free link to an attachment style quiz so you can see your attachment style. It'll show you how you relate to your partner based on your styles, and it gives you tips for improving your communication. And and your overall connection across styles. So it's a phenomenal guide, lots of value. It's free for now on our website, www.greaterthepodcast.com/hearts_aligned. So grab that free guide. We are steady putting together more resources to help bridge the gap in your relationships. And so also, if you have any questions or you have any topics, you can email us at info@greatareathepodcast.com. So info@greatareathepodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. And we're going to come back next week, I believe. Yeah, I don't think we got anything next week. Next week at same time for a new exciting topic. And so like and follow the page if you're not already on Facebook and TikTok. And we look forward to more real, raw conversations. Hashtag Life in the Gray if you're watching the replay. And go Lions.
Go Lions. UFC champions coming on the way. Loading.